Brendan Johnson back in studio with us. It is time for Taking You Home. Brendan, it's been a while. How are things?
Good. How about you, Bob?
Oh, man. Life is grande. El Grande. Big. That is for sure. All right. Some things that we need to talk about this morning on Taking You Home. For example, selling your home with a private septic system. What do we need to know about that?
Yeah, so especially in Stearns County, central Minnesota, it is not uncommon. A large portion of our residences are rural or have private septics, private wells. So the main things to know, and there's state statute and then there's variances county by county on how they handle some of the subtleties, right? So in Minnesota, a new septic, brand new, is good certified for the first 5 years.
Okay.
An existing septic that needs to be certified once you receive that certification is good for 3 years.
Okay.
So those are important timelines to know if you're getting ready to sell your house, what the last certification is, when that expires and when you need a new one. Is good to know to start planning on your sales process.
Okay, now I know you are not a septic system installer.
Correct.
You are, in fact, a realtor.
Yes.
All right. What do you know about mound systems? And the reason I bring this up is I had heard that if I want to go in with a brand new septic system, from ground zero, I have to go with a mound system. But what about can I get things grandfathered in if I don't have one of those?
I'm not an excavator, an expert in any regards. I do not believe that a mound system is a blanket requirement.
Okay.
I believe that probably a mound system may be required for certain situations, certain landscapes. Obviously, there's when you're talking about lake shores, there's different, restrictions on what you can do on that lot, but I am not aware of that restriction, but it may be specific to the particular location.
Well, again,
but that's a good question. Those are the questions you want to have answered before you're making decisions on getting ready to list and sell your house.
Now, when you said county by county, does that mean that every county has maybe different rules and regs?
So where there are discrepancies, but
differences.
Yes, is when you go to transfer your home in the winter months. So if you sell your home, fall, we're coming up on November, December, and it depending on the weather that you can't put in a new septic. So different counties will have different procedures on how to escrow, when the new system has to be done in the spring, different dates, whether that's April 15th, June 15th, whatever.
Sure.
Each county generally has their own document that you sign at closing that specifically lays out who's paying for it, how is it escrowed, because they want to ensure that it's going to be done sometime in the spring. So that's where different counties have different kind of, some are more lenient than others, I guess is how I would best phrase that. Okay,
now I don't know anything much about septic systems other than the fact that, as you said, generally they are in rural areas, and when townships get annexed or cities get annexed or whatever, they bring in, whack 'em and sack 'em and bring in, city water and sewer and all that kind of stuff. If I'm sitting there and I want to buy a piece of property and I know it does not have city water and sewer, does that kind of limit any sales potential at all or no?
Not for my experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
It's really, you do get into those one-off situations where it's on the verge of, okay, we know city services are coming soon.
Like 5 years or something?
And so does it, I've worked with a seller or two here recently where we know that the city services are imminent, they're in the works.
Right.
The septic, let's just say, needs complete replacement. What do you do then? Do you spend and do a brand new $20,000 system when 5 years from now?
Right.
You might just say, we're going to connect, pay the additional fees now. And so, again, that's gets to my point is every situation needs a little bit of analysis on how to make the best decision. But that's a great example of you may not want to put in a new septic system if you know you're going to be required to hook up in the next 3 to 5 years.
Are you guys as realtors required to stay on top of all these kinds of things?
Well, it's part of our value proposition is being knowledgeable in that. So are we licensed in the area of certifying septics? No, but that's how we best serve our clients. For instance, there was a new piece of legislation, I believe, 2 years ago. It's just a subtle thing that every certification now requires the homeowner to first pump their system prior to being certified. So that's an additional $200 to $300 expense. So the agents that are on top of that are best able to communicate that additional expense to their clients versus it being a $200 to $300 surprise to their clients. That's just one example of how we try and stay on top of it to best keep our clients in the know.
Okay, so who is responsible for testing the water? Is that me, the seller, or is it me, the buyer?
It's negotiable. Generally, the water quality is going to be a requirement of the lender.
Okay.
Although any buyer can ask for a water test to be done. Generally, I'm summarizing. Generally, the seller provides that. It's a $150 to $250 expense based on what's needed to be tested. The buyer can pay it, the seller can pay it. Generally, a buyer asks the seller for it. The thing that I want to communicate that's important to know is the baseline request in a purchase agreement is just the water quality.
Okay.
It is not the mechanicals of the well itself. It's not testing the pump. It's not inspecting any of that. It's just the water quality. So that's another thing to be aware of that we advise our buyers. Look, we're testing for the water quality, but if we have concerns, we should have someone look at the actual mechanicals of the well itself to make sure that the pump isn't going bad or that it's working properly.
Sure. Is there like a general rule of thumb, Mr. Realtor? And I know you're not a well guy either, but is there a general rule of thumb like a well lasts 10 years, 15 years, or no?
No, I have not seen that. That's hard. It's water softeners is one to me that if I look and see a water softener that's 15, 20 years, I feel more comfortable with that than something that's 5 to 6 years, because the newer ones generally only have a lifespan of 8 plus or minus years versus the older ones can last for 20, 25. So from a well pump, no, I haven't seen any sort of rule of thumb life expectancy.
Okay.
They generally need maintenance rather than full replacement.
Gotcha.
But you can tell if there's a newer pressure tank that you can. What I look for is what is the maintenance? Has it been maintained?
Right.
Versus just neglected.
Again, one of those things that we always talk about here: maintain your house, keep good records, because man, it can really make the difference in that house selling.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right, what's the best way to work with you guys over at VoigtJohnson Real Estate?
You can reach us online at VoigtJohnson.com or 320-774-2400.
Brandon, thank you.
Thank you, sir.